What's up, folks? This is Aaron the Pedantic. Today, I wanted to do a video for people that are perhaps going to be running their first DCC funnel. And by God, Sailors on the Starless Sea by Harley Stroh, I knew that, is one of the best ones that you can do. So I have had the privilege to run this a few times. I have not had the privilege to play in it, and honestly, at this point, I probably shouldn't, because I know too damn much. But this is one of the most highly regarded of the level 0 funnels, and for good reason. It's fucking phenomenal. If you have any other ones that you recommend, then let me know. But this is primarily for the judges who plan on running their first funnel. So let's just get right the fuck into it. So first off, you should know that the formatting is probably potentially familiar. It is one of the, I would say, one of the best in the biz in a lot of ways, because it gives you exactly what you need to know. It's, the DCC, that tends to be kind of wordy in a way, but not to the extent that some of the other things I've seen are incredibly wordy. It just makes sure that you have not only the bare essentials that you need, but also like some supporting facts and information and stuff like that. Which, I'm starting to get a little bit lighter on what I like, but at the same time, you can really parse the good shit from this very easily. So what you have here is some handout murals. That'll come up later. This is also going to be like an informal review, I guess. But you don't need a review from me on this. Just buy it. Like, everybody loves it. It's great. So introduction, this is just the fluff for, hey, welcome to DCC. Background, this is going to give you your information on what the adventure is about. Basically, there was a Chaos Lord dude, and he is, dead, and there's a cult that wants to bring him back, and they are a bunch of beastmen or whatever, and, it's a chaos cult. They're kidnapping villagers, and the level 0 PCs that you're going to have are going to be members of that village who have banded together and said, no, we're taking our people back. How dare you? So you're going to have a whole bunch of commoners that are going to be raiding this place. So this is the rumors table. Basically, every PC is entitled to a rumor. Is it PC or player? Player, not character. That's a good thing, because honestly, you don't want them to have all of these, because some of them are going to be contradicting, some of them are going to be false, some of them are going to be true. It's just a little bit of something to give them something useful that they might be able to use. This is the encounter table. It is not a random encounter table. This is just what are the encounters that are in the adventure. So it's cool to have this as a reference. It's like, okay, what area am I in? I'm in area whatever, because you can look on the map, and, then you'll see, okay, well, maybe I need to remember that there's obviously a sinkhole here. There's rot grubs here, I don't ever use that encounter table, to be honest, but that's because I usually bookmark the sections in the adventure, and just, I usually use the PDFs, is what I'm trying to say. So players start, this is one of the big things that they do a lot, is they include block text. Now, the block text is well written for the most part, but I don't like block text. Now, one of the things that's important, though, is that because they do block text, they don't tell you, like, in just the paragraph form, these are the things that you need to, like, these are the things they're going to see, necessarily. A lot of that stuff is actually in the block text. So it means that if you're going to run this and you're not going to use the block text, you may want to make a few notes. Just say, okay, so, like, for instance, you have the whole start of the adventure, approaching the ruins. So, I mean, there's not really like a whole lot of, there is guidance. I shouldn't say there's not a whole lot of guidance, but one of the things that you need to know is that there are really there's four. I would say there's four main ways that they can get into this place. And if I could get to the page, that would be brilliant. But alas, this is where we are. This is where we are in life. Come on, boy. It doesn't want me to have that page. Have I not turned to you enough? Okay. So here it is. All right, so here is the Devil's Causeway. That is way number uno. So look, marked. You got your letter marked. So I mean, it's very easy to follow. But the way that I would describe it is, I don't think it's written in there anywhere. But basically, I would say So, through your years, you've seen this keep on the distance. You know that, just from surveying it, perhaps one of the PCs you could kind of randomly roll. If they have like a forester or something like that, then maybe they have the knowledge, and you can just tell them. But you could just say, that there is this, there's kind of like just these steep walls of the castle that have this rock face all around it, and that there are really only 3 exposed areas that you're familiar with, and that is one of them, is basically a small bridge that goes across this chasm. One of them is this massive sinkhole where there's, it goes so deep that you see mist and nothing beneath it, and then you have this wall that's been crumbled down that you could crawl up with far more ease than you would, the rest of the keep. So it's important to give them that, because then they get to, as a group, say, well, I kind of want to try this way. They might even split their group up and say, well, this group will try this group will try that, whatever. That's fine. It's really this is not the biggest deal if they do that in this game, so long as if it can get pretty hairy if they're like, well, we're going to stay split up, because then it's like, fuck. At that point, I would say, okay, y'all can split up for now, but regrouping is, going to be important if you don't want things to slow down a lot and just get very convoluted. Sometimes it's okay to have those kind of meta considerations. So, Section A, basically, they go along this winding path. They're going to encounter these 2 dead men, that are like these vines have stuck them to these posts, basically, that are sitting, out in front of this thing. So what is interesting about that is they will be able to identify the bodies if they look close enough. They'll be able to get some cool stuff off of them. But one of the things that the module says is basically as they approach, then they can see, basically, the creatures activate immediately. Now, I wouldn't do this. Personally, I wouldn't do this. I'm a sinister motherfucker. So for me, basically, I would say, all right, so you see these guys, they're strapped to these posts or whatever. And then you see this, where the bridge is given out and there's just these kind of planks that are holding it across. What do you do? So then they have an opportunity. They can say, well, I'm going to check out one of the bodies. So if they're going to check out one of the bodies, then I'm going to give them a luck roll or an intelligence roll. I'll give them an intelligence roll. If they roll high enough, they can see that the body, that it's starting to move, and then that way, no surprise. Basically, then they are prepared to fight, because basically those things are going to come along and they're going to try and kill them. If they fail, then surprise. Basically there's going to be a cheap shot. Now, if they don't look at all, then there's going to be surprise. Quite seriously, there's going to be a surprise. It's going to occur as they are walking by. So you may have some of them that are on these planks, and you may have some that are still right here, and then you've got them kind of in a, kind of a bit of a pickle. They can run inside, and that's great or whatever. But things can get pretty hairy for them pretty quickly. And ultimately, these things are not like smart sentient creatures, but they are kind of like zombies. And there's kind of a precedent in a lot of zombie films where they sit still and they aren't really active until like they sense something, and sometimes that sense can be delayed, if that makes sense. So that's part of why I would do this, and I would also do this because it's going to reward people for inspecting things, and you want them to inspect things. You don't want them to just rely on you just giving them a roll and whatever. They can tell whatever's going on. So that is what happens there. And then once they get inside this place, then there are some beast men that are waiting up here that are going to drop this portcullis on the last person through, literally on them. So they have to make a reflex save. If they make the reflex save, they're okay. If they don't, then they are going to be seriously hurt, probably killed. And the portcullis can be lifted with enough strength applied. So that's one way in, and then they get into the courtyard. The ones that drop the portcullis, they're just going to run over here. So don't worry about them. You know, it's not an ambush or anything like that. They're just like, okay, y'all are stuck in here with us. All right, so this is entrance number 2. This is probably one of the safest, sort of. I'm not going to say that, actually. This is actually fairly safe. Fairly. They're all kind of a crapshoot. So this one, and this is one of the things that's really neat, Harley included a lot of situations where if you are a certain occupation, not class, but occupation, then you are going to have an advantage in this particular situation. So basically the players, they can say, well, does this look stable? And it's like, okay, roll an intelligence check. And if they roll like a 12 or higher, then they're good. But if they're a dwarf or a minor, so you have to kind of keep track of what exactly is in the group, then they get a free roll. So you just roll for them. You just roll, okay, did they get an 8 or higher? Then you tell them, all right, so you're able to tell these are the safe spots. You can go up these spots. And then everybody else can be like, oh, okay, so I'm going to follow suit. They're going to probably be fine. If none of that happens and nobody can tell which ones are the safe ones, then somebody is going to fuck up. And then I would probably find the character with the least luck. And then I would probably say, okay, that one is going to trigger it. So then what happens is they happen to put their foot on or their hand on a stone that is loose, and it starts basically a cascade of falling debris that's going to severely injure people below them. So that is how I would handle that. Otherwise, they're able to get up here, and if they look closely enough, they're going to be able to discover a special place. Now, this special place is actually one of the things that I think is really cool about old school dungeon design, is that they often include places that you really shouldn't go to right now. You should maybe not come to at all, but if you do come, it should probably be later, whenever you're a little bit better equipped, whether it's magic or just being tough or whatever. So this place is kind of an asshole. So the whole thing is, it has a door that is kind of covered up by debris, and you can, if you're strong enough, you can move it out of the way. There's an inscription on the front that basically says, "Do not go in this fucking place. Seriously, it's cursed." But if they do go in the place, or if they can't read the inscription to be able to tell, they just need to be a wizard or a wizard's apprentice or astrologer, fortune teller, that kind of thing. Then basically, once they go inside, they're going to find that it's very cold, and their movement is going to start decreasing dramatically if they fail saves, to the point where they can't move at all if they fail twice. And after that, then they're going to start taking some cold damage, and they're probably going to die. If they survive, there's a chance where they can get a really cool axe that is cursed. So it's like, it's not a good time. It's not a good time for them. So then you have your sinkhole. The sinkhole goes all the way down to kind of like the end of the place, really. I mean, it goes way, way, way down. But they're not going to have enough rope to do that. Most likely, if they mess with the sinkhole, they're probably going to have somebody fall in. They might get somebody across, but the sinkhole is really, I wouldn't say it's a red herring, but it's a long shot. Not a good idea. So now they're in the courtyard. So what do they see? There's going to be some muddy footprints that are going to head off to this place, H. Now, whenever they'll also see a slight bit of footprints going off in this way. So this is the well. Now, the well is a total bastard. Like, they do not want to go to the well. But let's say they do go to the well. What is important is that in the block text, it gives you this hint. It says you can hear this low moaning as if crying for help. Now, this should signal to the players this is a bad well. However, if they have been playing, epic fantasy, they're going to say, oh, this is a quest. And they're going to definitely look in. If they do look in, they're going to have a bad time, as they probably get sucked in and fall basically endlessly until they age to death very rapidly. If they cast any spells while they're falling, then corruption happens. but maybe they can get out. I had a player character fall in, and they managed to get out, but not before all of their hair turned white and they lost like a ton of weight. So this is if they search the courtyard, they can find this. Now you could be meticulous and say, which part of the courtyard do you search? I mean, you could do that. I might boil it down to a luck roll and then a search roll to see, okay, did you find the right spot to look? That might be based on luck. It might be based on, some kind of indication. I haven't had anybody find it, so I can't remember what the hint is. Let's see. There's a sigil carved in the face of the flagstone. So basically it's just if they pull away some brambles and weeds. So I mean it's pretty unlikely that they're going to find it. But if they do, they'll find some cool stuff in it. And yet again, there's a bow in there that is kind of rotted, but you can only tell if you're a forester or a bowyer or something. And in that case, or a hunter, I would say. And you can tell then, this thing is not reliable. So if you're rolling nat 1 or nat 2, it snaps. So it's a cool little thing to be there. And there's also a really expensive sword they can sell for quite a bit amount of money, or they can use it to fight, because a long sword is pretty damn good. So there's this little church. They see these blackened doors. That was one of the other places that they can go to. Right here. And in this pool right here, this fountain, there is a fucking ooze. And whenever they go inside, they will be attacked by it. And if they're hit by the ooze, they will catch fire. But there's a sensor that's kind of sitting around where if they start using the sensor with the incense, then what happens is it calms down. It totally chills out. Are they likely to figure that out? Maybe. I had it happen once, so that's cool. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot of stuff to do here, so they're probably going to end up going here, where, there's going to be an ambush. So, basically, whenever they go in, there's going to be some spears that are going to be hucked at them from up in the stairwells. There's like 6 beastmen and another a champion, so he's kind of a tougher guy. So there's going to be a tough fight here. They're going to have a lot of deaths, but they're also going to find a lot of villagers that have been captured here that can be used as replacement PCs. And there's also in this place, in the floor, there's just a bunch of gore. So again, this is one of those things where the epic fantasy people might not suspect that there's going to be anything bad, but DCC is not kind. So in this gore, you're going to find a ton of rot grubs. There also is some goodies. There's some goodies in there to find, but there's rot grubs. So if they dig through the gore, they're going to have a bad time. So they can ascend the stairs, free people. Maybe go around the top of the tower. There's nothing really up there, if I remember correctly. But there is the descent deeper into the place, which is good. Good thing that it is there. So they go down the stairs. They will see a coin here or there that kind of shows, hey, there's some stuff going on. So what happened is that there is a secret door here that is slightly ajar, that the coins will kind of lead to. And this is their little vault. And they have been taking the gold and taking it over to where they're doing their big sacrifice thing. So let's see, 1-1. I can't remember 1-1 very well. So yeah, you have your trail of gold. That the transporting of coins are going to be all the way down to 1-5. So they can miss a little bit of wealth that they can pick up that was left over. Not entirely likely. Let's see. The Dread Halls. The Dread Halls, that's the one I couldn't remember much going on. All right, so luck check. Strange compulsion. Wait a minute. The Dread Hall, that's in the pool? Yeah, I was looking at the pool. So they can find some robes in here that they can use that will be very, very useful. I hope that they do use them. Otherwise, bad stuff happens. But basically, they're going to have the opportunity to have a luck check that will dictate whether or not they notice and have the compulsion to look in this pool. So, okay. So, yeah, I'm getting it now. Like the map had me kind of thrown off. So the pool is going to. Okay, so this is 1, 2. Actually, I was looking at the number, had me confused. All right, so there are a bunch of skulls in here, and if they pass the luck check, they're kind of they have this compulsion to look at the pool. There's a skull floating up. Now these skulls are really important because they can be used as a projectile against the big bad. They also light up, and they continue to light up the more that they get closer to the bad guy. All right, so they can keep on pulling out skulls because there's a bunch, but if they pull out enough, they're going to notice, actually, or if they just look in here, they're going to notice there's a little bronze ring that's built into this thing at the bottom. If they twist it, and I would probably let them know that as they feel it, they can tell that like it's moving a little bit, like with their hands, like it can rotate. If they rotate it 90 degrees, this thing flushes out, and they get pulled into this section, and it takes them all the way down here. There's a chance while they go this way that they can find a ring, this ring right here. Incredibly powerful, very cool artifact. It's a game changer, honestly. It allows low-level characters, it allows anybody to cast a few different spells. It's entirely possible and likely that your characters will miss this. I've only had it found once. But if they find it, then it's very, very, very cool. And it's connected to Cesricon, which is one of the patrons of the game. So, if not, let's say they just, keep on going. They go down here. So they're going to find this thing that's called the menhir. So basically it's this fancy stone. And if they look and they try and figure out what it says, then they have to make a will save. If they fail the will save, they try to kill the next closest person, carve their heart out, and throw it into the water. Why would you do such a thing, you might wonder? We'll get to that. But otherwise, there's a candle that if they light the candle, then this ship is going to be summoned. And this is going to give them passage across the waters. If they get on that ship, which hopefully they will, because there's really not a whole lot of other. I mean, I guess you could try and swim across, but it's very dangerous, and you'll find out why. If they get on, once they get on the ship, they will. It will go automatically for them. It will start moving across the waters, and as they go along, they will be attacked by. Let me see if they have a picture of this behemoth. More or less, I want to say that's it. A giant kraken motherfucker. So, which will only be appeased with bodies for the most part. I think there's some other way to appease them, but for the most part, like after it's eaten 4 bodies, it's pretty much done. Let me see if there's okay, not far enough. Okay, so burning the censer that could have been picked up in the chapel, sacrificing one or more creatures, but that offends the gods of law. You can sacrifice 50 GP worth of goods by pouring them in. You can chum the water with corpses or blood, or you can fight the thing. And if they do fight the thing, they're not going to kill it, but they're probably going to die. My first group tried to fight it, and then they lost like 4 people, and then I was like, it's pretty much done at this point. It got its bodies. It's it's going to be happy. So, yeah, if they deal 66 HP worth of damage, then it leaves them alone. I don't think that they got to deal that much damage. So then they get carried across. Now they get to this temple, this ziggurat in this sea. And this is the location of the ritual. Now here's one of the hairiest parts of the adventure. There's already been a ton of hairy parts, right? This is one of the hairiest, because now they, if they are not, they have to come up with a plan to try and deal with this thing that's happening. Because look at that, 22 beastmen. More likely than not, the beastmen are going to outnumber the PCs, or it's going to be fairly close. So there's 22 beastmen, 3 acolytes, and a shaman. So what is kind of the best way to handle this? I mean, it's really up to them. It's really up to them. There's going to be some villagers that are about to be, hurled into this pit, and basically, more than likely, the baddie is going to be summoned. They will actually try and capture the PCs rather than kill them in order to hurl them as well. Let's see here. So once you reach the peak of the ziggurat, he's going to basically howl into the darkness above and pitch the Chaos Lord's effigy in the pit. Then that is when the Chaos Lord is going to be summoned. So as I said, there's really not a whole lot of, probably the best way, I would say, and this hasn't happened, but this is something that's possible, is, if the party uses the robes that they have found, and they, do kind of like the Wookiee maneuver, from Star Wars, where, you pretend that you're bringing new prisoners. And, so you have some people with robes, you're bringing them up there, you get them up to the shaman, and then you stab the fucking shaman, you destroy the effigy, and then, then it's a pitched battle with the beastmen. That's kind of like what I would say is the best case scenario. Instead, what usually happens is the dude is summoned, and then you end up hurling the skulls at the Chaos Lord. He's pretty tough, but not so tough that the group of level zeros usually can't defeat him. But after duking it out with him, because as you can see, I mean, he does a considerable amount of damage, but 20 HP is not terribly too much. It's mostly just the sheer number of beastmen that are the massive problem. But once he's destroyed, that's the main thing. Once you defeat the Chaos Lord animated effigy, everything is starting to break apart, and then it's over. All in all, this is a fantastic adventure. It's going to give, especially if you're doing this with players that have not played in the old school way, it's going to give them an experience that they've probably never had before. There's a fair bit of exploration. It's not the same level of exploration that you would do in, like maybe like a mega dungeon or anything like that. It's nothing where you're worried about rations or, timekeeping. There's no random encounters or anything like that. But at the same time, this is one of the better, like, just dungeon crawls where they're just going in. There's some traps. I forgot to mention the traps. There's like a spinning blade trap and some other things that are included. But you got traps. You have ambushes. You have some very perilous exploration moments where you can fall to your death in a lot of different ways. You can get crushed by a portcullis. There's just plenty of opportunity for very interesting things to happen, for some pretty amazing things to be discovered, and a lot of ways for them to interact with the world and do cool things without being super powerful characters. And this is really going to change the way that some of them look at the game. Whenever I ran my 5e group through this adventure, there were a lot of them who were like, wow, this is just really, really, really cool. They really loved it. I've never had somebody say that they had a bad time. So I was even able to convert Chelsea, who's very story oriented. So this is a great adventure. I highly recommend it. This printing has like an additional thing called the Summoner's Pit. I'm not worried about that because I haven't read it. But yeah, and you know, if it may have become clear that in the video, it's like I hadn't actually read the ending in a while, so I couldn't remember exactly how it's supposed to go. I just know how it usually goes for me. So yeah, but it's a tremendous adventure. These things you can buy them at most of your local game stores. $10. PDF online is, I think, a little cheaper, but they are well worth it. And it's fun to just sprinkle these things in your games, even if you're not running a DCC game. Like, just take the format. I mean, it's very convertible. This is basically based on 3rd edition, which 5th edition has a lot of the roots on, because that's kind of where the whole, you know, everything is D20, roll high, started. And, you know, 3rd edition becomes kind of a mess later on with the numbers just constantly growing. But yeah, give it a look. Highly recommend. Hopefully this might have put a little perspective into judges that are going to be running it. So, peace out.